Hello my friends and welcome. My name is Dennis and as you probably know I'm the Boeing 737 captain. Today we're gonna get familiar with the preliminary report of aircraft accident that was released by Indonesian officials, Indonesian investigation authorities. So we are here at the official document, so I put the link in the video description for you to download the same PDF file with preliminary report. So every investigation has its own stages, and now it's the first stage of this particular investigation of Sriwijaya Boeing 737-500 crash flight 182 that happened near to Jakarta. So far, the search and rescue team are unable to find the memory box of cockpit voice recorder. So they were able to find the debris of the cockpit voice recorder, but so far no memory card, I would say. So let's start, my friends. For me it's very close topic because I used to fly in the same airports there because I used to work for Garuda Indonesia there, of course, in Indonesia for 2 years, and I also was a pilot on this Boeing 737-500 type of airplane, this Boeing 737 Classic. So we had this type of airplanes in our airline in Ukraine International, so I used to be the captain on that one. So it's a very close topic for me. Even though it's the preliminary report, it still has many pages. So synopsis actually describes you the situation that happened there in general, but actually we need to see the factual information, the history of the flight. So I'm just gonna get you familiar with this, what had happened actually. Boeing 737-500 has been operated by Sriwijaya at 7:36 UTC in daylight conditions. Sriwijaya departed from runway 25 right, Jakarta. There were 2 pilots, 4 flight attendants. It's the usual crew composition, so we have 2 pilots and 4 flight attendants for even for Boeing 737NG, but not so many passengers. So as you can see, 56 passengers. This aircraft, it's kind of average size aircraft, so it's able to contain more than 100 passengers on board. Depends on, of course, depends on configuration. So after almost 1 minute after departure, the pilot contacted the Terminal East controller. The departure under restricted climb, so they had the clearance unrestricted climb to flight level 290. So the instruction was read back by the pilot. The flight data recorder recorded that the autopilot system engaged was at altitude of 1,000, almost at 2,000 feet. Here we have. So it's a usual case. You can engage. You need to engage the autopilot on Boeing 737 Classic. Then you are above 1,000 feet above ground level, of course. So then climb, you pass 1,000 feet, you may engage the autopilot. So that's what they done. On Boeing 737NG, you may engage the autopilot passing 400 feet. And here's where the situation starts to go in the wrong direction. So 2 minutes after the autopilot engagement at 1438, the flight data recorder recorded that the climbing passed 8,150 feet. The thrust lever on the left side of the left engine started reducing, while the thrust lever position of the right engine remained. The flight data recorder also recorded that the left engine N1, it means the fan RPM, because Boeing 737-500 equipped with turbofan engines, was decreasing. So the thrust was decreasing on the left engine, whereas the right N1 remained. So you have the fork, so we call it fork, and you have the thrust lever reduction on one side, and the other thrust lever stays on the same side. We call it fork, but usually the power management control unit regulates the N1 at the same RPM. So you have the same thrust, but you may have some fork. On Boeing 737 Classic, of course, the Boeing 737NG is equipped with new electronic engine control system, which keeps the thrust lever at the same position all the time. But on old-fashioned Boeing 737 Classic, we may have this fork, but I had never experienced flying the Boeing 737 Classic. Then the N1 goes together with this fork, so it's the first time for me actually to see it. but it's the real data from the flight data recorder. And just after 9 seconds, here you may see it, pilots requested the traffic controller, the air traffic controller, for heading change to avoid the weather. So they requested heading 075. It means that they were not in a bad weather conditions, but they saw some kind of the bad weather on the front. Then you have it, then you see it on your radar, you request for heading change. It's the normal situation. And later on, just after 10 more seconds, the controller instructed pilots to stop their climb at 11,000 feet to avoid conflict with another aircraft with the same destination. So, yes, before they cleared to climb flight level 290, but situation changes because you have the weather, you have different traffics all around. The Jakarta airport is very busy, so air traffic controller requested them to stay at 11,000 feet to provide the separation between the airplanes. And after 46 seconds, the aircraft altitude was about 10,600 feet with a heading of 046. Just a reminder, they requested heading 075, and it's more to the right, like 30 degrees more to the right, 29 degrees to be more particular, and continuously decreasing. So the heading was decreasing, means that the aircraft was turning to the left. So instead of going to the right, the aircraft was turning to the left. The thrust lever on the left engine continued to decrease. The thrust lever of the right engine remained. That indicates the failure of the autothrottle system operation. It shouldn't happen in your normal flight. What caused the autothrottle to reduce one thrust lever? So far, no one knows. I read this preliminary investigation report, and there are no any clues about this situation, why that happened to this autothrottle system. The autothrottle has its own computer, it's separate computer, but you can disengage the autothrottle and fly manually. So if you see this malfunction, you see the one throttle is going down, the N1 is going down, you need to disconnect the autothrottle and fly manually. At least thrust manually. So you need to set the same N1, the same thrust setting for both of the engines. 7 seconds later, the air traffic controller instructed them to climb to an altitude of 13,000 feet. So the previous clearance was 11,000 feet. Now they should climb 13,000. The instruction was read back by pilot, so they were conscious, and this was the last known recorded radio transmission with the air traffic controller. And what might have happened to the autothrottle? Then you reaching, so they reached 10,600 feet, then you approach into your prescribed altitude of 11,000 feet that you set on your mode control panel. The autothrottle will reduce both of the engines. Then you're reaching this altitude because you need to maintain a certain speed. For example, you have the speed of 250 knots, and while reaching this altitude, the autothrottle will reduce your thrust to maintain this prescribed speed for your flight. And if you are in turbulence condition, which might have happened in that situation, the turbulence penetration speed for Boeing 737 is 280 knots or Mach 0.76. So after passing 10,000 feet, you may already increase the speed to 280 knots if you experience the turbulence. And here we have the autothrottle increasement should happen again because you need to climb, you need more thrust to maintain the same speed, I would say. And of course, this thrust unbalance may also contribute to autothrottle wrong operation. We are in lack of lots of information, my friends. What was the speed? What was actually N1 setting? So we don't have the real decoding of the flight data recorder. I hope someday they will release it, and it's just the beginning of investigation, my friends, just the beginning. The flight data recorded that the aircraft altitude was about 10,900 feet, which was the highest altitude recorded by the flight data recorder before the aircraft started descent. The autopilot system then disengaged. Of course, the autopilot is trying, it's fighting to fly what you set on mode control panel if it's on. So in our case, the autopilot was fighting the autothrottle wrong operation in that case. But at some point the forces were so strong that the autopilot wasn't able to maintain the flight path of the airplane. So in that case, it may just disengage. Sometimes it may happen even during the wind shear conditions. Then you're approaching with the autopilot, it may also disengage, or you may encounter the wake turbulence. I had this situation once, my friends, and then I was flying my Boeing 737 at a cruising flight level, and there was a big aircraft, Boeing 777, crossing in front of me. So I encountered the wake turbulence, so the autopilot disengaged, and I had the bank of around 35 degrees, but I recovered it and I lost around 200 feet of altitude. I reported about this wake turbulence, but nothing special happened. So in that case, yes, if you have the thrust asymmetry, it's the worst situation compared to the wake turbulence. So the autopilot disengaged at a point with a heading of 016. So they constantly were turning to the left. The autopilot was struggling maintaining the airplane, trying to turn to the right on intended heading of 075 degrees that they requested for the weather avoidance. The pitch angle was about 4.5 knots up, and the aircraft rolled to the left to more than 45 degrees. And my friends, it's already the upset position of this aircraft. You need to follow the upset recovery maneuver. The thrust lever position of the left engine continued decreasing while the right engine thrust lever remained. Wow, my friends, it's the first time I see it. I have never experienced this wrong operation of the autothrottle system on Boeing 737 Classic. Well, we had some of the cases where the autothrottle computer was not working, the autothrottle wasn't working itself, but you are able to fly it like a normal airplane. Just you need to operate thrust levers manually. Nothing special about it. Many aircraft, they do not have the autothrottle system at all, like on ATR or CRJ, they don't have this autothrottle system, but you can fly them and operate manually. Wow, very unusual, my friends, very unusual. And just 5 seconds later, after the autopilot disengagement, they had the autothrottle disengagement. And the pitch angle was more than 10 degrees nose down. About 20 seconds later, the flight data recorder stopped recording. It means that the aircraft would probably disintegrated, destroyed with the G-forces, significant G-forces, probably. So far we don't know. The last aircraft coordinate recorded by ADSB out probably is this one. The controller was struggling calling this airplane, but no response on that. They reported occurrence to Indonesian Search and Rescue Agency, and they found the debris later on. So together we have 62 fatalities on that flight. My friends, it's beyond my imagination. I don't know why it happened, why it's so fast. You see, the autopilot disengaged. 10 seconds later, aircraft turned to the left and probably was destroyed by significant G-forces applied into it. So far, the investigation is ongoing, and I hope we'll see the results. There are not lots of chances to find this cockpit voice recorder. It would be a great contribution to this investigation that they will be able to find it somewhere, but it's kind of small box, and the cockpit voice recorder was almost destroyed. I'll show you the pictures over here. So yes, it's a terrible crash, my friends, very terrible crash, but do not speculate about it. What I said is just my clue, are just my clues about this thing, because I am the Boeing 737 pilot, and I used to fly this particular plane, the Boeing 737-500. Here's the information about the pilot in command, and he's 54 years old. It's not even close to the retirement age. In my country, you can fly until 65 years old, so you have lots of years ahead for your career as a pilot. And together, he's a male, and he has 17,904 hours, flight hours. It's quite a lot, my friends. I have 6,500 hours, and this guy has lots of flight hours, so great experience, my friend. The second in command was also a male, 34 years old, 1 year older than me, also married, and he has total flight hours of 5,107, which is also great flight experience. And on type, you see almost all of them on type, so they were very familiar with this airplane. And the other guy has 9,000 hours on type. It's quite a lot, my friends. So they both have great experience on this aircraft. It's information about the air traffic controller. And here's the information about the airplane. So the airplane was produced in 1994, so quite old airplane. This is the serial number, modification, and it had 62,983 hours, so quite a lot, my friends. Lots of hours. I don't know about the maintenance in Sriwijaya, but if you maintain the Boeing 737 Classic in a good shape, I would say in a good airworthy condition, these airplanes will be reliable. What I've read here, you may also download this PDF file, and you can get yourself familiar with this report. The report states that there were some issues with autothrottle system, and previously pilots recorded that they had autothrottle system wrong operation during their flights, or autothrottle failure or something. So get yourself familiar with this report. That's my recommendation. So that's the area where the actually final position was recorded. As you can see, we have a huge cell on the south, but on the north they hadn't had that bad weather compared to the south one. So the weather, as stated in this report, wasn't really a factor that contributed to this aircraft accident. That's the position of the airplane, and that's the navigation charts we have. Abasa to Delta, as you can see, so you need to climb and turn to the right and then to the left to fly on your route to Pontianak. So of course they deviated from this SID. First it was their intention to deviate, and later on they deviated because of the thrust asymmetry. And here we have the information about what the investigation is going to concentrate their forces on. Well, continue underwater search of this CVR memory unit. Probably they will obtain it somewhere. Well, I don't know how you are able to find this small thing in that ocean, but that will give us lots of new information for this investigation. Understanding the cause of the split thrust levers. Yes, so far I don't know the cause of that. Reviewing the history of the autothrottle system. Yes, it had the history, so it was not working well before the technicians tuned that thing, and the test passed, but still they have the problem with that. Reviewing the pilot's performance and their training on upset prevention and recovery. Well, my friends, that's what the aviation industry actually concentrates on for the pilot training. So every year we go for the flight simulator training, and there we train to deal with the upset recovery techniques on a different nose up situations, nose down, high banks, and different flap settings, stalls. So we train to deal with that thing, at least here. As for Indonesia, I think the same. Reviewing operations, human factors issue in this occurrence, reviewing organization issues in this occurrence. So particularly in every aviation accident, there is some part of human factor involved, because we humans, we fly airplanes. Some humans they design airplanes, so of course in every aviation accident you have those factors, but for how much it influence the particular crash, well, the degree is very different. So far we don't know. So my suggestion for you is to wait for official investigation results. And also, I remember one thing, so I have the vlogs on my channel about me flying the airplane with the fixed camera in my glasses, and someone asked me why do I place my hand on the thrust levers if the autothrottle is on, if the autopilot is on. Actually, you need to do it in my airline in particular, because at least at the critical stages of flight, then you climbing until reaching 10,000 feet and descending from 10,000 till you're landing. Because if you have some problems with autothrottle system, with autopilot system, you will feel it with your hands. So you can feel that the bank is very high, it turned to the left, the yoke is very sharply turned to the left, I need to do something. Then one throttle lever is going down, is going to retard. Why? So you will feel it. So actually these operation procedures are very important for each airline, and by following that operation procedures you exclude the risks of getting yourself into the wrong situation. So follow the standard operation procedures of your airline if you are a pilot. There is no any hesitation about it. There are many more additional things that you may find interesting for you in this report, but for now I will not put it in my video because it would be very long. So I highly recommend you to download this official preliminary report. So don't trust to mass media, to mainstream media. Trust to official sources like this report officially released by Indonesian investigation team. And we're waiting for the final report. The date of the final report is unknown because the investigation is ongoing. Actually, the search and rescue operation still is ongoing because they need to find this memory card for this cockpit voice recorder. My friends, I will not monetize this video because YouTube will demonetize it anyway, and it will put it in inappropriate content. And maybe it's the right thing to do in our case because we are speaking about the aviation accident involving the death casualties. So maybe it's the right thing to do not to monetize videos like that. So you may support me on my channel by just clicking the like button, and yes, just follow the awesome guide checklist as usual. So press the like to this video, subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell, whatever it means. I just hope that we'll get the answers to these questions. Thank you very much for watching this video.